What in the world is happening in Russia? Michael Snyder reports. The entire world has been stunned by the events of the past 48 hours. The leader of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, was leading a convoy of heavily armed troops to Moscow. The mainstream media in the Western world was salivating over the prospect of a Russian civil war. The regime change in Russia that Western leaders have desperately been hoping for seemed like a realistic possibility, and that sparked a frenzy of speculation on social media. But just like that, it was over. All of a sudden, Prigozhin was sitting into exile in Belarus, and we were told that his troops would be heading back to the front lines in Ukraine. So why was there such a dramatic turnaround? I wish I could tell you. Just hours before the deal was announced, Prigozhin and his forces seized a regional military headquarters in Rostov-on-Don, and within hours of a 400-vehicle convoy rolling into Russian soil from Ukraine, Wagner troops seized control of Russia's regional military headquarters in Rostov-on-Don, that's southwest of Russia. They rode heavy military machinery, tanks and trucks, and at the time Prigozhin was pledging that his forces would be going all the way. Prigozhin bragged his men, believed to be better equipped than the Russian army, did not need to fire a single shot as they took control of the headquarters. He said, "The border guards greeted us and hugged our fighters. If anyone gets in our way, we'll destroy everything. We're going all the way," he said. Of course, that was never going to happen, and I think Prigozhin understood this very well. One well-placed tactical nuke could have taken him out and most of his troops, but neither side wanted it to come to that. So Prigozhin backed down, and this sudden reversal left analysts in the Western world completely flummoxed. A loyal henchman slams the premise of the invasion, then claims an airstrike targeted his troops before taking a major military town without clashes, Prigozhin said, and then marched to within a few hundred miles of Moscow. But suddenly he executes a baffling reversal, turning back to avoid bloodshed, as the Kremlin claims. Alexander Lukashenko, president of Belarus, whom Putin seems to treat with contempt, brokered a dramatic reprieve in which the insurrectionist, who has his armor bound for Moscow, now opts for exile in Minsk. And following the announcement of the deal, Prigozhin was framing the whole episode as simply a match of justice. They wanted to disband Wagner Military Company, Prigozhin said Saturday. We embarked on a march of justice on June 23rd. Now the moment has come when it could have been a conflict, understanding responsibility for the chance that Russians would be on the one side. We're turning our columns around, going back to field camps as planned. What a weird turn of events. Needless to say, people are coming up with lots and lots of theories to explain what just happened. For example, one ex-CIA analyst says that the coup was actually a false flag that was orchestrated by Vladimir Putin himself. An ex-CIA analyst claimed Vladimir Putin orchestrated the coup with Wagner mercenary chief Evgeny Prigozhin in a classic false flag to try and make the West believe his army had weakened. Rebecca Koffler told Fox News' Eric Shawn on Saturday that the coup was staged as a way for the Russian leader to boost his political power, and he will eventually gain momentum, mobilize additional personnel, and reorganize his offensive on Ukraine. Others are suggesting that the U.S. was involved in getting the Wagner Group to commit this treason. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's being reported that U.S. officials knew in advance that this rebellion would take place. U.S. officials felt that if they said anything, Mr. Putin could accuse them of orchestrating a coup, and they clearly had little interest in helping Putin to avoid a major embarrassing fracturing of his support. While it's not clear exactly when the United States first learned of the plot, intelligence officials conducted briefings on Wednesday with administration and defense officials. On Thursday, as additional confirmation of the plot came in, intelligence officials informed a narrow group of congressional leaders, according to officials familiar with the briefings, who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. In fact, the Washington Post is telling us that U.S. spy agencies actually knew in mid-June that armed action was probably coming. U.S. spy agencies picked up intelligence in mid-June indicating that Prigozhin was planning armed action against Russian defense establishment, which he has long accused of bungling the war in Ukraine, and urgently informed the White House and other government agencies so they were not caught off guard, several U.S. officials said on Saturday. And it's interesting to note that Joe Biden is working very hard to assure everyone that the U.S. was not involved in this botched coup attempt. U.S. President Joe Biden's primary objective following the Wagner insurrection in Russia has been denying Vladimir Putin's pretext for accusing the West of wanting him gone. In a phone call with allies, Biden emphasized the imperative in not lending any credibility to expected claims from Putin of Western interference. Now that the coup attempt has failed, where do we go from here? Well, I think that this will embolden those Western leaders that are pushing for regime change in Russia. They will see this latest episode as evidence that what they are doing is working, and they will be more determined than ever to try to remove Putin. When asked about the insurrection, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told CNN that we have seen cracks emerge that were not there before, he said. A mutiny against Russian President Vladimir Putin came to a swift end Saturday, but it raised new questions about his grip on power and is expected to intensify pressure within Russia over the unpopular Ukraine war. I think you've seen cracks emerge that were not there before, Secretary of State Antony Blinken told CNN's State of the Union program on Sunday. Blinken noted that 16 months ago, at the start of the Ukraine war, Russian forces appeared poised to take the Ukraine capital Kiev, but were pushed back. And during a different interview, Blinken ominously stated that we, quote, have not seen the last act yet, end quote. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Sunday that the United States is assuming that the potential threat to Russian President Vladimir Putin might not be over. He said this is an unfolding story. This is what Blinken said Sunday during an interview with CBS's Face the Nation. He said, we have not seen the last act. We're watching it very closely. On the other side, it's a huge wake-up call for Vladimir Putin. I think that we're likely to see changes in the Russian military leadership, and eventually I think that the nation will shift into full war mobilization mode. We're definitely living during a time of wars and rumors of wars, and this conflict with Russia is still only the very early stages. And of course, this is just one of the major wars that we're going to be facing in the coming years. The Chinese are becoming increasingly frustrated with the Biden administration, and a massive war could erupt in the Middle East at any time. If our leaders had any sense, they would be pushing for peace. Sadly, war fever seems to be gripping the entire globe, and that is really bad news for everyone. And this is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I have published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are published on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.